Hello friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Michelle Fondin and I'm the author of Twin Flame Romance, The Journey to Unconditional Love. I'm also the author of Twin Flame Union, 7 Keys to a Healthy Twin Flame Journey, and my brand new book, The Empowered Divine Feminine, Becoming an Unstoppable Woman in the 21st Century and Beyond. All of my books are available in paperback, Kindle, and Audible books. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Thank you for subscribing below. Click on the bell, scroll up to all for all notifications. And thank you for giving the video a thumbs up. I do tarot readings, 30, 60, and 90-minute readings, twin flame, romance, general readings, life path and purpose. You can book that at my website, michellefondinauthor.com. Welcome to Twin Flame Guidance, where I guide you on a twin flame topic. And today's topic is unconditional love for twin flames. This is demystifying the term unconditional love and truly what it means. On this channel, I am interested in speaking truth more than anything else, being authentic, raw, truthful about spirituality, spiritual concepts, twin flames, and the other things that I happen to write about, which are kind of all encompassing with the realm of spirituality, the new agey type topics. And unconditional love is one of those topics that often gets very, very, very confused. We throw around the word unconditional love as if it is something that we know inherently how to do. But the truth of the matter is we truly struggle when it comes to the concept of unconditional love. So what I'm going to do throughout this video is first, very succinctly, talk about the concept of unconditional love, and then spend the rest of the video demystifying unconditional love and why we struggle so much with this concept. Unconditional love is love without conditions. What does that mean? That means that you have an all-pervasive, all-knowing, higher vibrational energy sense of the feeling, emotions, the language, the actions of unconditional love for another being, whether it's a person, a pet, a country, whatever it happens to be. Now, how do we know this concept of unconditional love? We know of the concept of unconditional love because of God, source, spirit, that is the source energy of unconditional love. Now, source energy, whether you want to call it God, spirit, Allah, Yahweh, whatever you want to name it, source energy just knows how to love. That's it. And source energy gave us life, creation, and free will. And the free will that was given to us by God's source was the free will to have a relationship with source or not have a relationship with source, among all other things. But that truly is the essence of unconditional love. It's, I give this love to you without conditions, and you have a free will choice to choose whether or not to engage in a relationship with me. When most of us met a twin flame or had a heart activation with a twin flame, we felt a spontaneous flood of unconditional love for our twin flame divine counterpart. Now, for most of us, this was unexplainable. It was unmerited. It was unearned, because usually when we feel love for someone or something, it's that there is a developing relationship with that person, place, animal, or thing. And in that developing relationship arise the feelings of love. But most often when we meet a twin flame, it's an instant feeling of unconditional love for this person, and we really have no idea where that's coming from. And once we feel the flood of unconditionally loving energy for our twin flame, we then go back to our human ways. And what are our human ways? Our human ways comprise of love with conditions, because that is the only thing we know. Besides love from God, Spirit, our source, we have no other knowledge of unconditional love except from God, and all other knowledge of love is love with conditions. Why? The reason is because we are human. And humans, when they incarnate on Earth, take on an ego, right? We take on an ego, a personality. All of these things are super necessary, by the way, because we need to forge our path on this earthly plane. We need to have an identity, have a personality, interact with others through our personality, take on a job, get an education. We need all of these things to live life on Earth. And because we need these things to live on Earth, we have to have a personality and ego. And with that, unfortunately, comes the clouded concept, the clouded vision of what love is. Now, love is expansive, right? Love is not constrictive. Love is not contractive. Love is expansive. And our concept of love as humans has tended to be very constrictive, very narrow, if you will. Now, the best example that I have of an approach to unconditional love, even though it's not perfect, is the love for a child. When you have a child in your life, you give birth to a child, you have your own son or daughter, whether that's through natural means or through adoption, you have something that is pretty darn close to unconditional love. You have a tendency to want to channel energy toward your child for the betterment of themselves and their lives. But typically, that's where it ends. Because you who are listening to this have parents, or you had parents, or you had caregivers. And you know all too well that most people spend years in therapy or wanting to be in therapy because of the conditional love that their parents gave to them. And the conditional love that their parents gave to them came very hidden in the way of guilt, shame, blame, conditions, manipulation, control. And well-intending parents, because most parents are well-intending parents had, under the guise of unconditional love, well, if you loved me, you would do life according to the way I tell you to do life. And so if you were a small child and you were going out in the wintertime and you said, I'm not cold, and your parents said, yes, you are cold, put on a jacket, or you're not going outside, that was teaching the child, you don't listen to your body, don't listen to yourself, listen to the adult in your life, listen to the parent, because they know what is best for you. And that's a very mild example, because we need to educate our children, right? We need to educate them, but we also sometimes need to let them fall on their faces. So if they go outside and they discover that they're really cold, guess what that child's gonna do? They're gonna go back inside and put on a jacket. But they made the decision to do that. But then it infiltrates into other aspects of our lives, where a parent tells us what to study because they wanted to study it and they never had an opportunity to study it. The parent tells us what type of job to get because it was a job they always desired to have, and they want to see you do better than they did. So do you see how love begins at a very early age to have conditions attached to it? And then when we grow up, we love conditionally. We do not love unconditionally. We tend to love very, very conditionally. We love when it's convenient for us. We love when we get back in equal measure. We love when it's advantageous to our lifestyle, right? In the example of someone who marries for money, for example. We love when we feel like it. When we don't feel like it, we tend not to love. We love when someone responds well to us, but when they don't respond well to us, then we don't love anymore. So our love is full of conditions. Now, let's draw this back to the twin flame journey, because I feel like this is super important, because you are a spiritual being having a human experience. And if you awakened to your twin flame journey, you are awakening to the spiritual aspects of who you are, because those forces, those spiritual forces, were dormant, or kind of dormant, right? For some of you, you were more awakened, but for the most part, they were more dormant than when you met a twin flame and experienced this flood of unconditional love without explanation, or without them deserving it, or without them meriting it, or without them giving you love in return, for example. So let's swing this back to the concept of twin flames and unconditional love and conditional love. So unfortunately, once we have the flood of unconditional love, which lasts a very short amount of time, meaning that flood where we just feel totally infused in it, it lasts a relatively short amount of time in comparison to everything else that happens along the twin flame journey. And once that unconditional loving feeling that you're flooded with tends to wear down a little bit, then your human aspect of conditional love comes back. And it's so unfortunate, because most twin flame channels, most twin flame coaches, most twin flame readers, most twin flame anything, and then spiritual teachers will guide you in the way of a very selfish, controlling, manipulative, and conditional type of love. And remember how I said that God is the source of unconditional love? He is the ultimate, or she, right? We're not going to attach gender, but let's just, for the sake of what most people say when they talk about God, let's just say he. God is the source of unconditional love, but God gave us free will choices. But the ultimate free will choice is to be in relationship with God or not. That is the ultimate choice. That is the ultimate offering of unconditional love. Now let's tie that back into your twin flame. If you love your twin flame unconditionally, the ultimate offering you can give to your twin flame is the total freedom, total free will to be in a relationship with you or not. And then continue to love them unconditionally. Now, God doesn't necessarily do anything in particular to love you unconditionally. It's like, I loved you into creation. I loved you into existence. I'm giving you free will choices to do your own thing while you're here on earth. And then it's hands off. Then it's like, I control nothing. I manipulate nothing. I do nothing. The choices are yours. Now, of course, this gets very complicated because you have an individual soul which has destiny. Now, I did produce a video quite recently called Fate versus Free Will, and I'm going to post that link right here, Fate versus Free Will. But you do have destiny patterns, if you will. And that is because you have an individuated soul that made agreements before you came here that said, I would like to accomplish A, B, C, D, or E tasks. And I would like to encounter these people and these souls that I've encountered before. And I'd like to grow in those relationships, grow in relationship with myself. And then at the end of my life, I get to go back, make an assessment and say, where have I been and where am I going from here? So you made these agreements before you came here, but really God has nothing to do with that. God could be like a person, a thing, an entity that checks off the okay on what you chose to be your destined patterns. But other than that, God does not control, manipulate, micromanage, influence your decisions in any way. Again, if you choose to be in relationship with God, then you can ask for help. But that help is not necessarily given without you asking. Let's go back to the concept of twin flames. Unfortunately, as I mentioned prior, that many hundreds of twin flame coaches and mentors and supposed gurus and spiritual teachers will have these programs that are all about manipulating and controlling your twin flame into loving you, manipulating and controlling your twin flame into coming back into union with you, manipulating and controlling or tricking even your twin flame into being in a relationship with you. Now, if you believe in the power of good and evil, and I'm not saying you have to, right? But let's just go back to maybe, if you want to call it mythology, right? You don't have to adhere to it, but let's go to mythology. Traditionally, Satan or the devil or the evil source, that's what they used. They used trickery, manipulation, control to get you to do something. So it's not of God, right? It's not of spirit, because that is not unconditional love. Unconditional love is, I give you free will choice, twin flame, to be in a relationship with me or to not. That is it. You have free reign. You have free will choice. You can do what you want to do. It's all up to you. It has nothing to do with me as the person, the embodiment of this person, this incarnated person in this lifetime. It has nothing to do with me. Okay? You may have a soul contract with me. You may have an agreement with me. But again, that's your soul contract. That's your soul agreement. You can choose to live it out or not live it out. Totally up to you. But that's on you when you end your life, right? Or when your life ends, rather. Ooh, that sounded bad. It's up to you when your life ends. Whether or not you fulfill your agreements, your soul contracts, your destiny patterns, it's totally up to you. Now, I want to also demystify the fact that unconditional love, and I already produced a video, gosh, it was about 4 years ago. A lot of you are new to the channel, so I'm gonna reiterate this. Unconditional love is not being a doormat or a rug that someone can step all over, okay? Unconditional love is something given freely. It's the concept of all-encompassing love that is given freely to another being without expectations of anything in return, But there's a big but here. That does not mean that you live without boundaries. It is perfectly acceptable to love someone unconditionally or love something unconditionally and set proper boundaries for you, for yourself, for your well-being, for your body preservation, for your mind preservation, for your psyche preservation, for your soul preservation. Now, let me give you another example that will help you better understand this. You might love your cat or dog unconditionally. You might just have an outpouring of immense love for your cat or dog, okay? Regardless of what they do. You would have this immense love for them. However, if your dog or cat came to you consistently and kept biting you and opening the flesh on your body, causing wounds to you day after day after day, even though you love that pet unconditionally, you may have to set a really strong boundary or many strong boundaries in order to not have yourself be injured. Do you get it? So a lot of people mistake unconditional love for unconditional acceptance of all behaviors. That they become a doormat. They're like, I love you unconditionally. You can walk all over me. You can take all my money. You can abuse me, whatever. And that is not unconditional love, because unconditional love has to emanate from yourself, which means you still have to have unconditional love for yourself and the integrity of your body and soul. And then it extends into unconditional love towards others. Now, the thing is, We don't truly know how to do this. So we are always walking a fine line between attempting to be unconditionally loving when we can, with whom we can, and being able to have the self-preservation techniques to like set those proper boundaries and not let somebody walk all over us. And when you can really turn that concept of unconditional love unto you first and go, I love myself unconditionally. When I make mistakes, I still love myself. When I stumble over my words, I still love myself. When I take the wrong path, I still love myself. When I have been mean to somebody else and I recognize that, I can still love myself and try to do better. So it's always about the source of unconditional love, being able to love unconditionally. Do you understand that? Because the source, God's source, loves us unconditionally. That is the source of unconditional love. But in order for us to then love unconditionally toward others, we need to have that source in us. So your connection to God, Spirit, is of the utmost importance because you need to have that constant stream of unconditional love from God energy in order to be able to have it for yourself and then display that toward others. Otherwise, it becomes a really selfish way of loving. So let's just go through a few examples before we close out this video to help you to think next time you feel you are being unconditionally loving toward others, not only your twin flame, but when you feel like you're being unconditionally loving, I'd like you to be able to do a little bit of a self-check to see if that's actually what's happening or if it is still conditional love through your concept of human love, which is very different. If someone insults you, for example, somebody you're close to, your mom, dad, one of your children, your twin flame, and somebody insults you, offends you, do you react with anger and do you get on the defensive? Do you try to hurt that person through words, through mean words? And do you show them anger? Do you spout off swear words? Are you slamming the phone? Are you blocking them? If so, that's not a display of unconditional love. Unconditional love would, for example, be walking away from that, understanding that the other person is operating from lower vibrational frequencies, and then later on perhaps having a conversation with that person stating how you didn't appreciate them using those types of words with you and you would like them to select something else next time. I would say, for example, in a conversation, if somebody were to use curse words with me while talking directly to me, and I would say, I understand you might be frustrated, angry, and upset, but using curse words that are geared toward me is not an acceptable way that I would like to receive right now or any time in my life. So if you are ready to have a constructive conversation, then great. But if not, let's take a little break here so we don't continue to hurt one another. So another example is, have you ever tried to trick or manipulate someone into A, communicating with you, B, being with you? And if that's the case, that is not a display of unconditional love. Have you ever given someone you love an ultimatum because there is a goal you wanted to get to? And if you have given someone an ultimatum, that is a display of conditional love versus unconditional love. And you might be wondering, like, how could I handle a situation like that? Well, you can handle a situation like that by stating what your expectations are. And if there is no reply or a minimal reply or a negative reply to those expectations about what you need, right? There's nothing wrong with stating what you need. then you have the choice to walk out of that relationship. You have a choice to walk away. You don't need to make an ultimatum with anybody, because that's manipulative. That is conditional love. And you can even say to that person, I still love you, I still care about you, but now is the time that I need to take care of myself and see that my needs are met. I hope this gave you food for thought, because like I said, there's a lot of misinformation out there about unconditional love, and a lot of it is surrounded with these manipulation tactics on being with a twin flame or getting back together in the 3D with your twin flame. And all of it is surrounded by conditional love. None of it is unconditional love, unless the advice is to simply walk away, bid your twin flame farewell with unconditional love, and say to them, whether it's in the 3D or the 5D, I give you full free will choice now and always to be in a relationship with me or not. And that's it, right? It's so simple. Why do we make it so complex? It's so simple. It's like, that's it. I don't need to block you. I don't need to control you. I don't need to call you names. I don't need to micromanage your life. None of that. It's like, here we go. I give you full free will to be in a relationship with me or not. That's it. I still love you unconditionally. You're free to go. And we make it so much more complex when it's so simple. It's just as simple as that. So I hope this gave you food for thought, twin flame. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for subscribing to my channel below. Click on the bell, scroll up to all for all notifications. And thank you for giving the video a thumbs up. Thank you for sharing this video with others who could use a little advice on unconditional love. Thank you so much for your support of my YouTube channel. You can buy one of my 11 published books. You can join a twin flame boot camp, meditation course, and now we're doing our group coaching, and it's through Patreon. The links are all below, and I will see you in the next video.